Hello, my friends, and Happy New Year. We just started the first week of 20 double XD5, and it has come to my attention that some of these titles here that I am reading, I have done on my channel, and yet I have not done on my channel. And of course, Ryu sent me this article for public perusal and consumption just so it can be shared to the rest of the otherwise oblivious, known, gamer-fed free world. So we are on Game Rant and we are checking out 8 of the best SNES RPGs that never came to America. Some you may have heard of, and then there are some even are still in transit of being fan translation. And fan translation is a beautiful thing. The RPG genre was a bit clunky on the NES, although some classics would later go into spawn giant franchises. Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy come to mind, but those two were refined in the next generation via SNES. There are so many classic RPGs on the SNES besides these two games, though. There are a lot of classics that never made it to the US. Some RPGs did get to Europe, though, but not that many. Of these games, these are standouts that most players can experience through fan translations. As always, though, it would be great if these SNES RPGs made it to the US officially one day. And if it ever does, you know what's going to happen? They will not come cheap. Starting with number 8. Dark Half. Play the light and dark side simultaneously. This was developed by West One, published by Enix, and released May 31st, 1996 on SNES. Dark Half was one of the most unique premises for an RPG. Players swap back and forth between an evil overlord, Yuku, and a daring hero named Falco. Yuku could recruit monsters to fight for him in battle, while Falco could recruit party members. There was also a soul meter that drained with every action taken, like in the meter in Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter, for those who are familiar with that brutal game. If either Yuku or Falco had their meter drained before the final conflict, it was game over. Dark Half was only released in Japan, but fans translated it into English. I've heard about it, never played it. And I do have it. Number 7. One in which I have seen play before. Deluxe has done it on his channel. And I wouldn't mind if I try getting my hands on playing this one too. Far East of Eden Zero. One of many Tengai Mako's lost projects. That's what it means in Japanese. Far East of Eden in Japanese is Tengai Mako. Developed by Red Company, published by Hudson. Released December 22nd, 1995. Far East of Eden Zero is part of the Tengai Mako series, and most of these games never made it outside of Japan. Outside the fighting games, anyway. It's a shame for Far East of Eden Zero, especially because it felt like a step above many SNES RPGs of the era. The colors used in this fantastical world were jaw-dropping and still look good today. The turn-based gameplay was nothing explosively new, but the third-person perspective was well detailed for all party members. It was also a huge game with a world that could be explored with a variety of vehicles like airships. While it never officially released in the West, it did get a fan patch in English. Number 6, a game in which Big and I actually played. He did it on his stream, I did it as a Let's Play. Growth or Destruction. Heed the Call to Awaken. That's what GOD means. Awakening to the End of the World. And it was weird, alright. And it was developed by Infinity, published by Imagineer, and released December 20th, 1996. Earthbound was a one-of-a-kind gem on the SNES that was overlooked and gained a new appreciation after the fact. Since then, there have been many homages made by the indie community like Undertale and Eastward. Excuse me. There were other Earthbound-like games set in the modern era back in the SNES, though, including God, Heed the Call to Awaken. It began with a young school kid in 1999 before he saw aliens invade and go into a coma for 10 years. When he wakes up, it's 2009 and the world has been ravaged by aliens, but pockets of humans are still rebelling. It may sound grim, but the dialogue and enemies are full of whimsy in this turn-based RPG that was only released in Japan, but it does have a fan patch in English. Number 5. The Glory of Hercules 4, Gift from the Gods. If God of War were an RPG. Developed and published by Data East, released October 21st, 1994, in Japan's SNES version. It was also released on the Wii and Wii U. The Glory of Hercules series was big in Japan, hitting every Nintendo console up until the SNES. They were developed by Data East, which was huge in the 80s and 90s, especially in the arcades. Bad Dudes, Crude Buster, Midnight Resistance. The only game North America got was the final one on the DS in 2010. It was the first game since Glory of Hercules 4, Gift from the Gods, was released in Japan in 94. There is an English patch for it, and it's worth checking out for RPG lovers who enjoy Greek mythology, and especially exploring the mystery of Atlantis. Although the DS is a hidden game on the portable. I did play that before, and I really should make that into a replay. Yes, this one, I've seen very few LPers do this one. Gumpuru. Gummon's Proof. It seldom means art. Earthbound. Developed by Lenar, published by SI, and was released on January 31st, 1997. Gumpuru Gummon's Proof feels like it should have been released outside of Japan because it is a Western, but one that looks and plays like The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. Players will go into dungeons and fight aliens and random thugs in a colorful world, not unlike Earthbound as well. Instead of swords, player will gain a variety of guns and other gadgets to fight back with, and they can even dodge bullet spray by laying prone. There are puzzles, but it's more action-focused than a Zelda game. There is an English translation for those curious, even though there isn't much dialogue to work through. One of the most interesting things about Gumpuru Gummon's Proof was that it was released on the same day in Japan as one of the most groundbreaking RPGs of all time. It's released on the same day in Japan as one of the most groundbreaking RPGs of all time, Final Fantasy VII. The greatest milk ever known. Yeah, it produced so much milk because, oh my god, that cow was heavy. And to this day, it's still. I can tell you one thing. I have been watching quite a bit of TV outside of here, and one thing I noticed, especially while catching the football game, um, they mentioned mental health. First, it was the first thing I noticed was they used Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse for one ad, and as of recent, they used Final Fantasy VII as another ad for mental health. And I'm like, yeah, okay, you know what? I can't get mad at this. And I basically clapped for that one. Because it does have an underlying theme of it, which Cloud is going through some sort of identity crisis about who he is. And this in turn, makes him feel like he's inferior to who he thought who he seemed to be someone else. Zach Wilde. The person he was modeled after. Moving on to number 3. A game I have finished on stream, and I should consider doing it as a Let's Play. And it's part of a series. Terranigma, otherwise known as Tenchi Sousal. Post-apocalyptic secret of mana. It was released on October 20, 1995. Took only 16 hours. True. Quintet, we miss you. Terranigma was developed... Let me try that again. Terranigma was developed by a company named Quintet, which worked on a number of games for Enix on the SNES. Some of them were published globally, like ActRaiser, Illusion of Gaia, and Soul Blader. However, Terranigma only saw a release in Europe outside of Japan, so it's fully playable in English to those who could import it. And let me tell you about that series. It goes in this order. ActRaiser, Soul Blazer, Illusion of Gaia, Terranigma, ActRaiser, Soul Blazer, Illusion of Gaia, Terranigma, and there's a fifth one that not many know about. Slapstick, otherwise known as Robotrek. So that's basically the whole Quintetverse. Reminder, I do not count ActRaiser 2 as part of it because it didn't play like ActRaiser 1, but it's still part of the story of ActRaiser. So that's why, if anybody were to ever ask, that's the reason. I count the series, not, how many parts it spawned. Like, no, the series. I still wouldn't mind wanting to, see like a somewhat of a U.S. release of Terranigma, but it'd probably be changed to something else. I wouldn't know. The mystery of Earth, I guess, because, Terra means Earth. Enigma, mystery. The mystery of Earth. Or it'd be called Terranigma, the mystery of Earth. Of the many Quintet games, this is the one most unfortunate to have never been released in North America, as it feels like they put all their energy into it. The action-based gameplay was solid, with the sprite work and gameplay overall having a very secret amount of quality to it. Yet, in comparison to Secret of Mana, Secret of Mana was very janky. While it was stuck, while it was still stuck across the pond, at least it is available in English without need for a fan patch. Number 2, a series in which is a funny little spin-off to Dragon Quest, Tornico's Great Adventure Mystery Dungeon. The beginning of the Mystery Dungeon series, of course. This was released in September 1993, developed and published by Chunsoft, and it takes 7 hours to beat. If you've never heard of Chunsoft, you have never heard of Spike Chunsoft. Despite the Dragon Quest series being huge in Japan, not many of their games have made it onto digital store shelves. Many of the spin-offs never made it across the seas like Tornico's Great Adventure, Mystery Dungeon, which was a spin-off to the 4th game in the Dragon Quest series. It's also the first game in the Mystery Dungeon franchise, which also has based games on the Final Fantasy and Pokemon franchises. In Tornico's Great Adventure Mystery Dungeon, players will go through dungeons as Tornico, a shopkeep, to look for loot in a roguelike setting. The sequel got a release outside Japan on the PS1, but those interested in North America for this SNES original will have to settle for a fan translation. Hey, it's better than not having one at all. And the last one, Warriors of the Blue Dragon Legend, 2 Heroes, Samurai Pokemon Tactics. This was developed by Game Freak and published by TNE Soft. Released January 17th, 1997. Warriors of the Blue Dragon Legend 2 Heroes was developed by Game Freak, and it should be easy to tell that because of the art. Players will explore an overworld in a top-down perspective and switch to a 2D view when entering combat. Enemies move when the player moves, akin to early roguelikes, including Tornico's Great Adventure Mystery Dungeon. This adds a layer strategy to the hack and slash gameplay. While it missed North America in 1997, Pokemon fans can rejoice knowing it's available to play via yet another fan translation. And let me just say, for those who are wondering, yeah, it is rather interesting to find that fan translation is alive and well, folks. And you can't get a much greater time than just to say, oh, hey, I never played these games. You're on the internet? You should start looking it up. Especially for those who just say, I want to be a Let's Player. What do? You're on the internet. What do you think you should do? Get yourself an emulator. Get yourself something like RetroArch. Or if that's not much of your speed, Menafin. Or that's still not your speed, well, you can still look up online SNES and the like. But, look it up. That's what you're supposed to do. Go online. Go look up these titles. Hell, go find some ROM site that have them, and please, for the love of like, do not share this. Do not share where you found it. Just say you have it and enjoy it. And the only way you share it, well, make a video of it. Make a video series of it. Be creative. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing about fan translation because fan translation has been going stronger than ever. And because of that, plenty of games that never saw past Japan shores are getting that release. And that's not limiting to only SNES, but to any other known console that was released back in the day, and they're getting fixes too. And it's a beautiful thing about it. So, if you have something you want to add to this, please feel free to comment on the video. And if you do so enjoy more of this, like this, well, subscribe to my channel. And you will always get some daily content, be it game-wise, let's play-wise, or whatever I show, because, hey, I'm a variety channel, so therefore my channel is full of that variety. So, with that said, I have been your friendly neighborhood Tenkaichi, and welcome to the new year. See you then, folks. See you then.